Hey
Yes.
Charles. Hey Charles.
Yes, sir.
We're live, Charles.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. It's a beautiful Wednesday, the 22nd.
Aloha Friday, everybody.
Wherever they're at, I hope the weather is fine. I know on the west side of Kauai, it is rainy, but it's a needed rain. It's a needed rain.
Is it raining?
Yep. It's
Like right
coming down
now?
right now.
Man, it's like it's wants to rain. It like really wants to rain, but it ain't raining.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the heck is going on, but it's of course we got on category 2 hurricane coming our way and expected to increase to a category 3. So exciting times for the Aloha State there, my friend.
Well, I'm in a low inundation zone, so I might have to. And I'm right next to the levee in Waimea, so you know how that is. Should something happen.
You're gonna need to come stay with us, Charles.
Well, thank you. My granddaughter coming up. She's coming up, and if I want to make sure she's okay because I have my son's house, beautiful place in Hanapepe. They're up there up on the heights. So
Ah, you're good. I might have to come move with you.
yeah,
Yeah, we're in actually in a good spot as far as the rain and the flooding, but the wind, Hurricane Iniki took my entire roof. The entire the whole roof went. It was bizarre.
with pressure
Uh,
buildup on the inside.
yeah, gotta be, because it was just floop. So I had all the walls. I had an amazing skylight after that. And a good thing is we have gas.
Yeah,
We don't have electricity. Our heater is gas. Our stove is gas. Everything is gas. So although we couldn't stay in the house, we could shower in the house. We could cook in the house. It was pretty cool. I don't know if you've ever. I mean, I think unless you go camping, you
yeah.
get one of those portable showers. To actually shower under the stars is pretty cool. It's pretty
We
cool.
we've got gas too here. It's just that we have to recharge the gas. The sun. The panels on our roof. It helps recharge the gas. So
Yeah, we're all old school, man. We just old school. We get electric and
I
gas.
tell you, brother, it's always when there's an impending storm. For some reason, being on Kauai, even though it's dangerous, but I just love the feeling about. I just watch the community how everybody start ramping up. They start getting the generators ready. I mean, it's neat. In being raised in Honolulu, city boy, see that everybody's scrambling. Oh, where we going now? You running around high rises. Where you going? What pillar you going to hide behind so you don't get nailed by the high winds? Stuff like that. And just imagine Waikiki. What do they tell you? Move to a higher floor.
Yeah,
That's all I
yeah,
tell you. Move to a higher floor. Ooh,
yeah.
wow.
It's going
Yeah.
to be very interesting if that hurricane hits, or even if it passes close and people got to evacuate,
Yeah.
um, because of the social distancing requirement, the mask requirement. I mean, I was listening to Harry Kim, and I think some of the hotels, Caldwell was talking about some of the hotels allowing the use of their places for shelters. So ballrooms and so forth, because I guess that's the positive thing is we don't have the amount of tourists that we had during Iniki,
Right.
but we still have them, and they're all going to be heading for cover. But how do you manage that? Like I was saying, on one of the shows, I don't know if it was last night or not, but I was in charge of KCC, and there was no way we could have done it if we had to implement social distancing. There's just no way. So
Well,
we are working on getting Elton Ushio, our civil defense or emergency management head, on our show. Um, he said he can make it tomorrow, so we're going to work on that. He may come on tomorrow or he may come on Friday, but we definitely want to get him on this week before the weekend so we can get it straight from the horse's mouth as far as what we on Kauai can expect, because it
well,
looks like it's heading straight for the Big Island. But hurricanes are like
unpredictable.
cats. It's like
Yeah.
cats. You just don't know what they're gonna do.
Well, I think even though he'll be talking from the emergency, civil defense for Kauai, but I think it applies across the state. The only thing that will be different is where do you respond to as far as shelter. But I would like to pick his brain as far as emergency preparedness. I'm pretty sure that there's individuals who do this for a living that probably go over and beyond what provisions they need, and they may share that with us. That's what I like to ask. What are little, some tricks aside from the normal list that you normally would see. What else would you recommend? So, like for myself, I know I gotta make sure I bring my meds. You know,
Mhm.
make sure you get on radio. Make sure you get enough water. All of that. You make sure that your vehicle is topped off. I have a portable generator, one generator in the back of your car, and you go in case you got to hunker down someplace. You got tarp, you got tape, you got all of that. Just got to make sure. And what's important? Make sure you know that for you people that are in hoard toilet paper, bring them with you because you might go to one facility that might not have. Just simple things like that. And if you can just re-emphasize to everybody the importance of it, I think it will be good. It'll be good.
Yeah, I mean, water, um, canned goods. The thing about a hurricane is when all is said and done and the hurricane passes and then you get the shelters and going to be serving food. I mean, no one is going to starve after a hurricane.
Yes.
But in that, that initial 72 hours, maybe 4 days or 5 days to take care of you and your family, that's the vital part, and that's what everybody's gotta focus on. I mean, it's guys going out and hoarding all the toilet paper for what? I mean, after a hurricane, you just got to understand that we're one big family on this island, and that was one of the things that we really did well after Iniki, this island, and I expect the same should this one hit. We just gotta just hope for the best and be prepared. That's all.
Well, I like to also say that for our viewers out there who did go through, they rode out the storm during Hurricane Iniki, 1992. Okay, that's nearly 28 years ago. Maybe some of the new generation they wasn't born yet, but for those who have lived through it, you know, the only thing I'm going to ask is, please share your experience with the younger. You might have neighbors that are a young couple, and they don't know what you folks went through. They might have heard about it, but they've never really experienced it. Please spend the time to let them know what to expect should it come down. How the roads are going to be, how it's going to be cluttered. Things are going to be tight. Another thing too, I always tell people during a time of emergency, especially go to the bank and get yourself cash, because cash is going to be gold. Because if there's no power, you can't be using any ATM. They're going to rely on cash. Okay. So as long as you carry a little emergency supply of cash, a couple million here, a couple million there, you'll be okay.
And if you don't know, just go see Uncle Charlie. He get plenty,
Yeah.
plenty.
And my other uncle, the bank that says yes, no worry, gonna be open. Just give any kind of code. I'm not gonna spit them out for you.
I know a lot of you are posting about the problems last night. I apologize. Last night I had to work, and so Charlie ran the Facebook Live from his computer, and put it on my page, so we could get all of you informed. So we're gonna get better at that part of it. I might have to work again tomorrow night, so we'll figure it out before tomorrow night.
Yeah.
But we will. Everybody's asking if they can borrow money, Charlie. So
Huh?
just hit them up on Facebook Messenger.
Yeah. Yeah. Hit me up on and I guarantee you I'll block you. No, no.
But tonight we are blessed again to have Angela Keene from Hawaii Quarantine Kapu Breakers, and they've been having some action and they've been having some excitement, and so Charlie and I thought about, we saw all the videos, we saw the pictures, and it was pretty cool seeing it happen. Uh, Everybody's waiting for this to happen. Everybody's watching for this to happen because everybody's frustrated. because of all of these quarantine breakers. You call them breakers, I call them quarantine busters, but
Yeah.
the quarantine
The
breakers.
QBs.
Yeah, the
Can you see me
QBs.
and hear me okay?
I
Oh
can hear
yeah.
you fine.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you again. Thank you, Angela, for agreeing to come back on tonight. I know you're super, super, super busy.
It's okay.
But so what the heck's going on over there on Oahu and the rest of the state as far as Hawaii quarantine kapu breakers?
Well, you are a HQ. Wait, I'm going to have to look at it. HQKB Angel. Both of you are, because you belong to the group and you've helped us. So you two belong
Wow.
to the group. You're Angel.
Charlie,
Yes.
Charlie, that's a new shirt. That's a new shirt.
Yes.
Just for you and me. Yeah.
No, we'll make up. We'll make up a shirt.
HQKB
Yeah.
Angel.
Yeah, but mine. I'll have wings on mine, but I only have one wing for now. So I can fly in one circle. Okay, with one wing.
So this was a different week. The last week and a half was a different week, and that was my goal all along. We had some heart-to-heart talks with the Attorney General's office, and I know this as a news reporter, you can't prove everything on social media, because social media, when you post, let's say I took a picture of my dog Scooter a year ago, and I posted it today saying, look at Scooter, he's so happy. And everybody comments and says, oh, he looks great. Let's say there's a legal case with that. When an investigator looks at that, it's posted on social media, all the metadata is gone. Social media strips that. So in court, I could go into court and say, hey, judge, I posted that a year ago. I didn't post it today. How can you prove I posted it today? And the lawyers will go back and forth, and the judge will say, well, we can't really prove that Angela took that picture. Could be that she took it last year. So really, those types of things can be thrown out of court. And there have been some court cases to prove that. And we knew that, or I knew all along, that we'd start with social media, because that gives us the information of where they're headed or what they might be doing. And we can use some of those screenshots to get into our information. But eventually, we have to have witnesses to back up those. We have to have statements. We have to have documentation on when photos were taken and where they were. And by taking it offline and being organic, that's how you win a case. And we know that now that folks are getting bold and they want to fight the cases. We had a case on the Big Island, I think it was a week and a half ago. It took us 5 days to track her. And we had a neighbor in Pahoa who had seen her going in and out, and people in the community said, hey, we know she went to Florida to a hotspot and she just got back. She's not wearing a mask. She's in a vehicle with young teens, farm workers. She has been from Hilo to Kona. She's been in Kona, Costco, where she was seen. And so we gathered people within the community, in the Hilo community, from all over to help us. And so people would get shots of her, photos of her, would follow, would sort of not come into contact, because we don't want to do that, because that scares them. Okay. So we went around and we gathered all that information. For me, it's easy on Oahu because we have the AG's office, and the person that I'm connected to, the lead investigator, is very responsive, very akamai, on it, knows what to do, and we can get them within 24 to 48 hours. For the Big Island, it wasn't so easy because we're working with the police department there, and that's not something that they normally do. And they're not used to it. Yeah, you get the 22 cult leader, the cult leader and the 22 followers, but that was actually kind of easy because it was a lot of people in one spot. But if you have one person going all over the place, the police were called 4 or 5 days. Police, civil defense, county prosecutor, different things. And it was sometimes 2 or 3 phone calls a day. By the 5th day, they caught her. So that was like, she's not even on social media. I mean, there's nothing you can find about her. So that was a win-win situation. I said, okay, let's take it a step further. And I keep talking with members of the group. Come on, let's get out. And if neighbors see, if flight attendants see, if security guards will see something, a neighbor will see something, shoot us that information, grab a photo. Don't get close. You're going to tip them off. And we don't want to be called vigilantes. So we had an artist and his wife who is a love life coach. And they're from Walnut Creek. And they decided to do their quarantine breakers. That was their intention. They don't believe in masks. It's not necessarily political for them either, believe it or not. And they just wanted to be bold and do as they please. And they went to a vacation rental, rented a place for 30 days, which is the loophole, right? And then they break the lease. This is something that Mel talked about. So they did the vacation rental for 30 days. The woman living on the property she was right. She wanted to do the right thing. And so when she saw them coming and going, she said, hey, we're on quarantine. You cannot do that. And they just got into a big fight with her and just bullied their way around the property and said, we're not wearing masks and we're not going to do this. And this is not who we are. And, whatever. Cause a big ruckus. So she said, you cannot stay here. Fine, we're going to break the lease. So they break their 30-day lease, which they didn't plan on having anyway. They moved across the street to another property. And the owner is not on property, which is a way for them to get away with it. All this time, the neighbors complained. The landlord talked to a friend. The friend is in our group. I said, gather all the photos you can. Do not get close to them. Sit out on the beach. If he happens to come by, take a picture. Then take a picture. We got oodles of video, oodles of photos. The Waimanalo community, they were hot. They came out. They snuck out. They got photos. They got what we needed. I sent everything into the AG's office and bam, arrested. The sad thing is they have 3 kids on that property with them that are on the vacation. And it's sad for that to be an example for those children because of what's happening. But yeah, we got them. And it was the last 2 cases, 100% organic.
Organic, meaning not on social media.
Not on social media.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people have heard, don't post your quarantine breaking events on social media because people are watching.
They still do.
I know. Because people will be people, and these guys are just testing the system. And I know that every island is seeing an increase in visitors on the road now.
5 times.
As we see an increase in the number of arrivals.
5 times the amount.
Yeah, and the traffic, everybody this morning was going nuts about the traffic in Lihue, which has been amazingly smooth, and it's starting to back up again, and it's a lot of more cars on the road, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that these people, and again, Kauai is unique because we have a separate layer of screening at the airport. There is an area that they got to stop, and they need to confirm that they are not, or verify that they're not subject to quarantine in order for them to pass out and get out. But that's the problem that we're facing right now, because these guys are coming in. It's basically they're taking the information, what they put in the form, and they have a inter-island boarding ticket from Hawaiian Airlines that's coming straight from Honolulu. So they connect at Honolulu Airport, and then they take their inter-island leg segment of the trip, and they show that to the screener. They tell them, I'm coming from Honolulu, and they're allowed to go through. And that is where the disconnect is, and that is what we need to fix for sure before they even think of allowing more flights to come in. So the direct flights, obviously, that come, we only have 3 direct flights a week, and that's Delta Airlines on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So those obviously they're all subject to quarantine unless they have an exemption from the governor or from the attorney general. So those are a little bit easier to screen. The guy they arrested last night was actually on that Delta flight and didn't have accommodations. He didn't have accommodations. So, but it was the local screening, the county screening, that was able to get him and arrest him. And he's in cell block until tomorrow's Delta flight to take him back to where he came from. But on the other islands, as I am told, and correct me if I'm wrong, Angela, but I'm hearing this from everyone that
Yep.
has traveled. You come off that plane, you go straight out.
Yep.
You're
That
straight
is
out.
true.
Absolutely no screening whatsoever.
Yep. Big loophole. So a lot of times what they'll do is they'll land in Honolulu. Okay. They have to have a call from the airport to their hotel or their location. And they can't say they don't have one, and they can't say it's Kauai. So what they will do is they will check into a local hotel here for one night. And then they check out the next morning, grab their flight to Kauai, Big Island, Maui, whatever, Molokai, and they're off and running scot-free. Yep. That is.
Well, I can see the difficulty, you know, because when you have these one-nighters, and say if that becomes the norm, I don't think you have enough enforcement to go after each and every. I mean, and you know, the sad thing is, we hope and pray that, you know, if they violate, which they shouldn't, but if they do, that they're not asymptomatic, right? I mean,
right.
that's the whole premise. But what if they are? And the whole, I guess the frustration is trying to track it back, because by the time whoever gets sick, and they can say they came in contact with subject number one, who happens to be one of these travelers that got through the quarantine, they're off and running already. They're halfway back home to the stateside.
Yeah.
So those things just, I guess, compounds the problem, I guess.
Oh yeah. Totally.
And so I don't know if, I think, you know, last time we had this discussion with one of the individuals that came on, and that is, you know, when we have numbers the way we do, like now, we report 25 infections, 17 infections. I think some of the complacency comes from those numbers, because compared to the rest of the nation, it's low. So they figure, hey, if it's that low, man, maybe something not gonna happen to me. Therefore, I'm not gonna wear mask.
Yep.
So then you got people that are coming in from these hotspots and saying, hey, they have low infection rates over there. You know, and the thing is, it doesn't look like, and as long as we stay outdoors, because they're saying now that it's more indoors that you have a tendency of getting infected, or the transmission of it. So you got all of this thing swirling in this pot, and I think it just makes, you know, unless you have a dedicated task force that's all they do 24/7, look for violators, it's a tough nut to crack, boy.
It is. And my biggest fear, there's a list. Okay. There's a list, a national list that came out that says what's the most dangerous, right?
Right.
One is concerts, funerals, and airplanes, because you're in a closed environment, and in an airplane, you're in a closed environment to Hawaii for how many? 4 to 7 hours.
Right.
One asymptomatic person can be on that plane, took Tylenol before they left, right? Took Tylenol before they left, aspirin, whatever. We talked about that earlier this week with some of our Maui supporters. Hey, Maui supporters, hey. We talked about that, you know, and they can take that aspirin or Tylenol before they get on the plane, be asymptomatic, no fever, and they're off and running. And then they spend all those hours on the plane with all these people sitting next to them. You've got a whole plane that can be contaminated.
Yes.
You know?
Well, you know, it also became a little educational, I think. You know, we talk about asymptomatic, and I know the people are watching, they've been following this enough to know what is asymptomatic. And you never hear about pre-symptomatic. You don't hear about pre-symptomatic. So we know that asymptomatic is someone that is positive, but just will not develop, even in an incubation period, will not develop any signs of the virus or that they have it, period. They will go on with their life as if they were immune to this stuff, but yet they're this carrier. Then you have those who are pre-symptomatic, that maybe on the fifth day or so, they'll start having slight signs, maybe a sniffle or two or a cough. But other than that, it's not full blown. So, there's this juggling act going on. How do we watch what happens when it happens? And I just feel very, very sorry for even the contact tracers to go out and try to hunt this thing down. Now, I think you talked about it the last time, that if we could get everybody into this tunnel and everybody come out to shoot one way, it's easier to track them.
Yeah.
But that's not the case right now. They're coming at all different angles. And I applaud your group because they're actually keeping an eye out. They're kind of like augmenting the law enforcement side, right? So that's why your group is to be applauded.
Yeah, there's going to be some changes. So somebody asked, I'm looking at my questions here. Why is TSA allowing inter-island travel without a Hawaii ID? Well, it's not TSA. It's state and DOT. You're breaking an offense, state DOT. TSA is federal. So there has to be some better processes at the airport. We're working on it. We started working with the AG's office. Now we're working with new news, the Department of Health. So we're going to help them too. They asked some questions. I also spoke again today with the DPP, Department of Planning and Permitting, which is the agency, city county agency that oversees the temporary vacation rentals. That's a huge issue for Oahu. I'm not sure how it is for Kauai, because I think you guys have designated hotels, right?
TVRs?
Yeah.
No, we have our problems with TVRs. I mean, I think you addressed it the last time, right, Mel?
Yeah,
TVRs?
but I think you guys have...
it's illegal. I mean, TVRs across the state and bed and breakfasts are illegal right now, and that creates a problem for travelers that are on quarantine. So inter-island travelers, inter-island residents, or people that are traveling inter-island that are not subject to quarantine can rent at the TVRs and the bed and breakfasts. But anyone that is subject to quarantine cannot rent a TVR or a bed and breakfast or rent a car from car rental agencies or Turos or anybody that rents cars. You cannot. So those rules are there. It's just the enforcement that's a problem.
Right. It's happening. We all know it's happening. Yeah, for sure. And then there's the exemptions, right? I
heard the lieutenant governor tonight on the news say the attorney general has 47,000 exemption requests.
Yes.
47,000 exemption requests.
Yes.
Stay home, people. Right?
So
you gotta ask for damn exemption. Stay home.
Right.
I get angry. Like, what the hell?
Get off my lawn. Our lawn. Sorry.
Let me just answer a quick few questions. Somebody asked about the test, the 6-day, take a test before you come, take a test to shorten the quarantine. That's not in place yet. That was the plan, but that whole thing got extended a month. So no, you come in, you stay the 14 days in quarantine. I talked about the car rentals. No car rentals for people on quarantine. Zero. Bingo, not from no one.
And they're getting Turo. So Turo is home-owned vehicles that are rented out. So that's their workaround, but still not legal. So if you're listening and you're a Turo owner, or you participate in Turo, you shouldn't be renting right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm trying to get our prosecutor, because the car is being used in the crime, to go forfeit the car, go to civil forfeiture.
There you
go.
So
we can take their cars.
There you go.
People asking about the Kauai police checkpoint that was outside of the terminal, and that's now back inside. They moved all the personnel because people were swapping out green cards. They were sharing green cards. And if you don't know about that, don't worry. The Kauai people do. If you travel to Kauai, if you're a non-quarantine person, you get a green card. You put it at the checkpoint, the physical checkpoint outside of the terminal, outside of the airport. Give the police, and they move on. Guys were actually sharing that thing so people could get through without quarantining. Amazing.
Oh my gosh.
So all of them are inside now. And it's they've tightened it up quite a bit. And Sue Kanoho, who's on.
Hey, Sue.
Yeah, Sue, we're trying to get her on, but her boss is hesitant. He's afraid we
Of
might beat
course.
her up. There's no
Okay.
way we would beat Sue
That's okay.
Kanoho up. Hell no. We all love Sue. But she reminded me that they also I talked about the one guy that got arrested last night on that flight. They actually had another one that they basically they have an option.
Yeah.
Get a hotel or you go back home.
That's
So
and
one of them
that,
chose to go back home. So we actually they got two last night. One got arrested, one went back home last night. So thanks, Sue. Thanks for the info.
so we worked on that with the Attorney General's office and the DOT, and we said in that hearing way back when, we said, why are people getting one-way tickets? That should not be allowed unless you live here. So they now require a round trip ticket, and if they don't have a round trip ticket, they go right back on the airplane. Right back. That's for Oahu now. Could be different or similar on Kauai, but I would assume it's exactly the same. Yeah.
You know, I have this question for you, Angela, and because of what you said a little earlier, and that is, you have a relationship with the Department of Health now, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
Is it, from what you can see, just by I don't know how much interaction you've had since making that contact, if it's every day or so many times a week, but you know, I told Mel, you know, we're not the bad guys. We're the informational guys. And for some reason, and this is where I'm going to pick your expertise,
Okay.
is I sent a letter to Bruce Anderson directly. And, you know, he never responded. Do you think that maybe the notoriety, because we haven't had anyone on this show that gotten beaten up. We make sure of that. We don't have any guests come on to get backed into a corner. That is not who we are, because it serves no purpose.
Right.
But yet there are people that are critical of the guests, and we see it. You know, we can see it by the comments.
Sure, I see it.
do you think that the Department of Health feels that Mel and Charlie is maybe counterproductive in what we're trying to do?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I think they probably assume that you're with us. So because Kapu Breakers is like, everybody's a state Kapu Break. My husband's, you know, out in the water on Saturday, you know, out in Waikiki at Pops and Threes, and he's surfing, and they're talking about quarantine breakers, and he's like, hey, you know, that's my wife, huh? And they jump in, they're like, we're so happy. Oh, I got chicken skin. We're so happy that your wife is doing, that's your wife.
Yeah.
I think it's just, and that Bugga, he is so overwhelmed. I worked with Bruce when I was a health and medical reporter at KGMB and KHNL over the years. When he, in the early days, man, he is so busy and busier than the governor, just because they're taking on all the health aspects of this. What we've thought about since the very beginning is to make this a digital process. And if you're not akamai with, if you're not a geek and not digital, whatever's, it's probably not going to work for you, and you probably can't come to Hawaii. But what we would like to see is a 100% digital process. Everything is done on an app or a check-in or a website before you even get on the plane. All of your travel information, where you're staying, your transportation, your reason for going, whether you're positive or negative on your test results automatically go in there. It gets loaded up to the app. And if the flight attendants check that before you get on to come to Hawaii, whether it's Los Angeles or Seattle or wherever the plane is coming from, if that's not all there by the time you click that, put that ticket in to get on the plane, you cannot get on the plane. So that is our goal. I feel that that's probably the goal of the authorities as well. And I've talked to enough people in the powers that be that's really, I think, what we're all going for. And it's going to be very difficult for people to skip out. Hey, no matter how solid of a program you have, there's still going to be quarantine breakers. So we're still going to have a job to do as long as there is a pandemic here, right?
You know, a lot of things, and I think Mel brought this up before, and that is, you know, people describe, so you know, they cry that their rights are being violated, especially when you got to download information, right?
Yeah.
It's that so-called Big Brother. But I think you hit the nail on the head. If you get everybody, theoretically, anybody that steps foot on Hawaiian soil, the state
Yep.
of Hawaii,
Yep.
we should know where you're at
Yep.
all times. We should know, and when you leave this island, because one in, one out, you'll be able to tell, right?
Yep.
Because I think that goes towards like what census will do. Is if you're gonna take census and you're gonna count people, make sure you get the right count. Don't say that okay, we accounted for 100,000 when actually there's a million. Then something went wrong there. Something went wrong.
We have a moat, basically. We have a moat around our state. No one else has that. No one else has that, and we should use it to our advantage. And if anybody says we're breaking their rights, they're breaking my right to stay healthy. They're breaking my right to come and go as I please because they have COVID and they're bringing it here. And that's the only way that you get COVID, is that it's imported originally, right? Just like every other pandemic that almost decimated the Kanaka Maoli over the years. So yeah.
We're gonna have to figure out a way to remove all the loopholes. And the problem we have is that connecting flight. That connecting flight is going to cause problems for the neighbor islands because it's so simple. And I know somebody got pissed off, and I think I forget what page it was on, about we sharing the secrets or telling people how it's being done to encourage them. Listen, they already know.
They already know.
It.
Yep.
But I want the public to know. I want the public to be vigilant for this, so that they realize that there are some loopholes that's got to be closed up. Now, Sue did post that they're supposed to be coming out with a digital product, 100% digital for inter island flights. But
yep,
when,
that's part of
we
the
don't
same
know.
thing. Yeah.
We know, because it's very simple now. If you think about it, a visitor comes into Honolulu, stays 2 nights, books a flight from Honolulu to Kauai on Hawaiian Airlines. He's done. He goes from the airport, from his hotel or wherever he's staying, to the airport, shows him his boarding pass, Honolulu to Kauai, gone. He's on. And he comes here, he has an inter-island pass. He absolutely does not quarantine. So he may sacrifice a night or two on Oahu, but then after that, he's free as a bird. And that is where the loophole that I don't know how to fix. And because you do it in multiple reservations, not one if they do a reservation to Kauai and there's a connecting flight, you can get the data to tell you what passengers are connecting passengers.
Correct.
But if it's 2 separate reservations, 2 separate reservation numbers, 2 separate airlines, there's no way.
Yep. That's
so
very
how do you
true.
Do it? That's going to be a problem. And the only other way to do it is let all the airlines fly to all the islands, but the quarantine would be at your first airport. You know what I'm saying? Wherever you land first from the mainland, that's where you quarantine. That is where you will. There will be no connecting flights. You come off the plane, you go straight to the table. You don't go to another boarding gate. No, you go straight to the desk, and there they usher you out and get you to your quarantine hotel. That's really the only way with the system we have in place, without the digital opportunities. That's the only way. So if you want to come to Kauai, you find a flight to Kauai, a direct flight. Because if you land in Honolulu, you land in Maui, that's where you're spending your 14 days.
Yep.
Because what's the difference, Angela, if you're staying in a hotel room in Waikiki or in Kauai or on Maui? It don't matter. You got 4 walls and a TV and a toilet. That's what you got for 14 days. You might get a lanai. That's it. So, sorry, there'll be no connecting flights. That's why I would never make a governor. I would never make a decent governor, because I'd be sued for civil rights violations every day. But it is what it is. You want to stop this, you gotta take that kind of action.
You break civil rights when you break the law too, right?
Correct.
I mean,
correct.
And why not? I mean, if they're going to do all that, why not sit in Kansas in a Motel 8 and just look at the Hawaii brochures? You have a better view.
Absolutely, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
They're not coming here to spend 14 days in a hotel. Vast majority of them are coming here. They know that they're going to sneak out. They know.
So I'll bring this up. If I'm digressing or get too deep into this, you shut me off. You cut me off, please. But everybody keeps asking, why don't we go after the vacation rentals? And yesterday was a really good example, because that family checked in to that vacation rental. They didn't plan on staying there. They were supposed to be there for 30 days. The woman chased them off the property. They got into a fight. Yeah, she did the right thing. They went across the street to another rental. Okay, everybody was saying to me, they're seeing the neighbor got shots of photos of them walking out with the investigators. It was pretty, wow. Like, oh, we had that video. Anyway, everybody said, why don't you get the rental at the same time? Okay, so here's your answer. I talked to the AG's office. I talked to DPP. Here's what they said. AG says, okay, breaking quarantine means you're going through the airport. It's a state offense. That is why the AG, Attorney General, is involved. Okay, go to neighbor islands. Normally it would be the Attorney General's office, but there is no Attorney General's office on neighbor islands or law enforcement because they're on a tight budget right now. And so by default, the police departments on the neighbor islands are involved in those cases. But let's just say for Oahu, why couldn't we? Well, because that's a state offense, but breaking the law with the vacation rentals is a city and county issue. AG can't get involved. And if they do decide to get involved, they can't prove anything on VRBO or Airbnb or any of those websites, those apps. They would have to execute a subpoena to Airbnb, which costs $50,000, and they may not even get the information. And then we're looking at, what about these other things? Well, if they go to the quarantine breaker, like for example, the guy that got arrested yesterday, he may not want to testify against that owner of that home. Why? He's not going to get his money back. So why would you plunk down $3,000-$4,000 for a week's stay? And if you tell police that you were in a illegal Airbnb or vacation rental, you're not going to get your $3,000-$4,000 back. And then where are you going to stay? So 9 times out of 10, DPP says to me, and AG's office too, they will turn down those pleas from law enforcement to say, will you please testify, right? So that is a tricky thing. It's very complicated. Very complicated. And with the DPP, they do have investigators, but they're not law enforcement. So if they see a do not come on the do not trespass, or they have a dog, or somebody screams out of the door, you're not allowed to come here, we forbid you to be here, you're coming onto my property, the investigator from the DPP has to leave. They're not an official investigator. They're city, county, they're an inspector. They're an inspector. They don't have the ability to arrest somebody. So really the hands are tied with DPP and the city county process for these things. That's something that I am working on with a couple of volunteers, specifically one Angel who has some real estate background, and she knows who she is. She's watching tonight. So I can't thank her enough for her help. She's really the brains behind the temporary vacation rentals. So we're going to be working on that. It's not going to be a quick process.
Well, can you repeat what you said about the subpoena? The Attorney General said the subpoena cost $50,000.
Yeah, to or agencies like Airbnb, VRBO, and that sort of thing, because you're going on the mainland to their headquarters to execute that order, to get the information on that person that rented, because they want to see how the transactions took place. They have to see those transactions in order to prove their case.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with you. Maybe we got to get the Attorney General on this. We subpoena records constantly. All our subpoenas for phone records, for B&Bs, or goes to corporate offices, and we don't pay a penny. So I'm not sure where she gets the $50,000 thing from, but maybe they do things differently in Honolulu.
It
I'm
could
not
be.
sure.
It could be.
But
And
I mean,
then
a
they have,
subpoena.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then
no,
they
no.
have
I'm
to,
just saying.
they also have to spend that money for the witness to come back to testify, and a lot of
Right.
times.
Now that part I can understand. If you're gonna prosecute, but I just want to say that, and we had this discussion. I think I had this discussion with Sue on one of the posts. The 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 state law, the quarantine violation is the state law. That's where the sheriff, I mean, the attorney generals
Yeah.
or whoever can enforce it. Any law enforcement officer, county or state, doesn't matter. Speeding is a state law. It's not a county law. That's a state law as well. Our county police officers enforce, but the zoning side of it, the use violations in the county level, that's enforceable by the planning department. Same here on Kauai. I think all the states, I mean, all the counties are like that. But the quarantine violation itself against the visitor that is renting an illegal TVR, and the fact that the person is renting an illegal TVR to a visitor, that's not violating the county code. That's violating the quarantine proclamation. So I would love to get the attorney general on our show, because she needs to explain that. I don't see that at all. Once that person made the deposit, the VRBO and all of that, that's just advertising platform. But once that deposit was accepted by the owner or the VRBO, whoever it was, that crime has been committed. And at that point, that if the visitor wants his money back, it's like any other victim of any crime. You go to court and you get your restitution.
Yeah.
In fact, the visitor, they had no knowledge that it was illegal, and then you got the victim restitution services. But my point is this: these TVRs are creating a huge loophole for the visitors, and
Oh, yeah.
and those are the ones that I would guess, or I would suspect, should be looked at with priority. And even if let's just say, for the sake of discussion, it costs $50,000. If we shut that TVR down, and save somebody's life because some knucklehead with COVID was staying in a TVR and gallivanting, then I guess it would be worth it. But
And
one, I
then
don't.
yeah, and then you're talking about 5 to 10 hotel workers that aren't working because the person that would have stayed in that hotel is staying at a vacation rental. And
Exactly.
retirees will say, hey, I rent that place out because that's my income. But what about the non-retired people who are trying to feed 5, 10 kids, right? What about them? That's how they survive. And everybody in the hotel industry who's working there has been so great about saying, hey, I don't like go back unless everything is done right. I've heard that from so many hotel workers, and I'm thinking, my gosh, you're laid off. Yeah, they're getting unemployment. It's not like working. But those TVRs are an issue, and I get why people want them or need them for their income, but it takes away from the hotel workers, the tourism industry, and not only that, right now it's a danger to the neighborhood. Anybody who lives nearby could get sick, and it's a chance to spread everything around. So it's a problem, and we're working on it. I just don't have all the resources, and it's not going to happen quickly because we all know how the city and county work.
What's another, I guess, if we had to look back, you remember that at the inception of this program, it was explained, I think, Ford Fujikami in front of the Senate, and they brought on others, I think, individual from HTA. They kind of explained the two-line system, right? So they're coming in. If you get to this level, you go this way. If you get to the other level, you go that way. Okay. I started to remember back then, it seemed already complicated as it is, but I guess it would have been better than nothing, because it's vetting the traveler as much as possible. Because once he gets past the tables, he's basically a free person once they get past that point.
Yep.
But nobody ever thought that getting past that point would come with a whole new set of complications. And so I think, with what's going on now, it's an ever evolving learning process. But here's what complicates everything. You have that. You have the state possibly looking at reopening on the 1st of September. You have schools going back into play. You've got all of, and that's not to even address the fact that we have cases of COVID that still needs to be solved of where it started from,
Right.
because we still don't know. So it's we know that it's like when Adam and Eve, right? If before Adam and Eve, then who was there? How did
Right.
they show up? So I guess what I'm saying is we have the virus, it's here. So now we either look at it's brought in or it's community spread. So now we know it's community spread. But yet it's continually popping up and it's continually growing. And it doesn't show any signs of slowing down for whatever reason. It doesn't. So I think what we need to look at is how do we look at what we have in front of us and go even further than that, because we have all these other variables into play.
And pandemics are going to be around forever, and the state knows that, and that's been in discussion. So whatever happens now could be continuing for a very long time, even when COVID's gone. That's what they said. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's
The
like
other
the
thing.
the
Oh,
TSA after 9/11, everyone thought that would have been temporary. You cannot take a bottle of water on the plane. You got to take off your shoes. All of these things that we thought was temporary back then, that it would have ended, and it never did. It never did.
One of the things that people don't know, and I asked for this in the very beginning, and it goes back to that Senate hearing that I testified at for the group. I asked them about photos. I said, are you guys scanning driver's license when they come in and they get to that screening process? They are not. So if I didn't have a name, but somebody took a picture of somebody violating quarantine and they send it to me, and it's authentic, like not social media kind, I could send it to the AG's office and say, do you have this guy? Apparently came in within the last week or two. They could look through the photos of all the blonde-haired people or brown-haired people or brown, whatever color they are, it doesn't matter. They're going to see that and they're going to match it and they're going to say, that's our guy. That is a plan in the future. So with that digital process, we are hoping that they will be documenting by scanning their driver's license, so they actually have a picture of that person, so that they can actually identify them if they're knocking on the door to make sure that they got the right person.
I was
violating somebody's rights. You're violating somebody's civil rights. Facial recognition,
but not if it's a driver's license. You've already done that.
I'm just being facetious. I just being sarcastic. Just think about it, right? Every bank has a camera. Every ATM has a camera. Every gas pump has a camera. Everywhere you go has a camera. I don't see anybody holding signs outside a service station saying, I don't want a service station. I don't want my picture taken when I'm
the only difference with this is when they produce an identification and take a picture, there's a name associated to that face. I think when with the gas station, they see my face, but they don't know who that person is. That's why a lot of times they have a difficult time saying, hey, we got to find somebody on the street who knows that guy. But I was going to ask you, has anybody ever come up to you and says, hey, when we have visitors that come, sometimes they're going to attend an event, so they hire a nanny service, right, to take care of the kids. Have they ever said, hey, Angela, they've got this service where they can pose as you during quarantine because they don't know who you are anyway. So in case somebody come knock at the door, they say, so-and-so, yep, I'm here. Okay, we just came to do a wellness check.
Yes. So I had a woman contact me. Oh, you cannot imagine the tips that I get. I can't even talk about some of them on air.
Yeah.
They're that. We can't get everybody, but I hear it all. But yes, I did have a woman say that she had someone staying with her, not in the same room, but probably in an attached apartment or whatever. And it was a friend of hers. And she was very upset because she didn't realize her friend that was visiting was going to break quarantine. And she said, do you know, she went to the beach, she left her phone with me. And she said, if if they call, just answer and say it's me. Yeah. Now, I have a cousin. She lives here in Waikiki, not far from me. She had to fly to Seattle. Her husband is a doctor, my cousin. And she just came back with this big, long scar on her arm because she had to have this surgery. And it had to be done in Seattle, couldn't be done anywhere else. And she returned and has been here for about a week and only got one text message. One. By the way, if Andrea's watching, cousin, I'm so proud of you for doing the right thing. So, yeah. So she's not even spending time with her husband. She is locked in a room. He slides stuff under the door. He will put food out for her. She'll get it, close the door. They are doing it right. But of course, that happens when you have a doctor for a husband, right?
Hey, don't tell me he slide the food under now. He is behind the door.
Yeah, I have a friend who's on right now, Michael. Proud of him too. I mean, his wife had to go to the mainland, to Florida, I believe it was, just recently, and came back and very strict quarantine. He's doing the same thing that your cousin's husband is doing, taking the food, taking the necessities, but she's basically isolating herself to protect her family, which I wish everyone thought like that, because
I did. I do too.
That's how we beat this. You know, that's how we will beat this. But unfortunately, too many people are not doing that, and that's how this thing is getting out.
I get a lot of requests or questions about this, and people will say, my husband went for work to the mainland, or my wife went to the work for the mainland. They're coming back. We're in the same house. Our house is small. Can we just all be together? Technically, no, it's not safe, because if he's or she has it, if your spouse has it, or they came into contact, and or even they came into contact with somebody on the plane, right? And even if they tested negative, because it can take 10 to 14 days to show up, they come home to the house, everybody commingles, then husband stays at home and quarantines, wife goes out to work, then she's going to take it with them to work. So really the best case scenario is what my cousin is doing. Lock yourself in a room, make sure you have a bathroom, get your stuff delivered at the door, close it, stay away. Really, you can't commingle. You shouldn't. If there's any, way to get a hotel room for a week and, that kind of thing, that's better case scenario. And then I hear about workers all the time. I'm hearing, my coworker went to the mainland and he's an essential worker, but he went there for a vacation and now he's back and he's working. And I'm like, what? Cannot.
I mean, what are they thinking, Angela? What are
They're
they
not.
thinking?
They're not.
When you have the title of essential worker, I think that title should be associated with a test as well, because the virus is not going to know whether you're an essential worker or not. Just because you have that title, you're skating by so many things that can be dangerous. And I think for you to have that title as an essential worker, I think you should be tested. You should be tested, because if not, and you're an essential worker, it's almost like that bad prison guard. Because you're a prison guard, you decide to sneak dope into the prison.
Yep.
Nobody's gonna check you, and it's almost the same thing. I wanted to ask you, with regards to these individuals that ultimately do, break quarantine. Okay, is it? I mean, it seems far and few in between, but we really can't tell because we can't get a handle on it because there's so many visitors now. Because if we're looking at 200-300 visitors a day, they say the numbers, you have like 500 that's returning residents, and the other 300-400 is visitors.
But wait, I always consider them one, because everyone in that group has to quarantine. That's just go ahead.
So,
right.
But even if you had to take that, if we took say 700 a day, you go on a week, and at the end of a 5-day week, you have that many individuals. is there enough staff to actually go and make checks? I mean, that's the ultimate question. I mean, we're over here beating our heads because we're running into these problems, but it all boils down to is, do we have enough personnel, and how do we take an almost insurmountable task and make it palatable that we can actually that we can actually make checks on it. Because if
Well,
not, you're going to have to take your quarantine breakers and multiply it times 10.
I've asked to have our volunteers deputized on each island, just so that they can be out and about and help check. I mean, really, I actually said it was on HPR with AG Connors. We were on last week. And I said, why not get us deputized and bring something, you know, a couple of mac nuts, a little bag of mac nuts, some cookies, something Hawaii, wrapped in a tea leaf, ho'okupa, and say, just say, welcome. We're just checking on you, making sure you're okay. Do you need groceries? Do you need somebody to run errands for you? Wouldn't that be a great positive thing for our group to do? Now, I want to reward people for doing the right thing. It shouldn't just be a group of people going after quarantine breakers. It should be a group that also does good. And I've also proposed to our group that if we identify a local company that's doing the right thing, that's checking itineraries and asking whether they have exemptions and where they've been, and looking at their ID and asking for their phone number, that company is doing the right thing. We had a report from a tour operator on Oahu, and he got very concerned because he had two people come in. One was an older guy and one seemed to be a younger person, and they were bragging about being exempt, and it made everybody, there were all kama'aina there, and all the people were just really upset. Why these guys gotta brag about having an exemption? We don't get one exemption. And so he got concerned and he asked her for the exemption letter, and she couldn't provide it. And so he got very concerned and he documented everything, and turned out she may have broken quarantine, but when they applied for his exemption, said that he had a medical condition and didn't have very long to live. The AG took that and said, okay, if you want to do an excursion, you may do an excursion, but that's it, right? And legally, when I followed up on this with the AG's office to make sure that they weren't breaking quarantine, we discussed this. They said that an exemption does not give you the ability to go all over the island. No, that's not what an exemption is. You're not scot-free from quarantine. You can go where you need to go and back to your home. And a hotel or a vendor that's doing tour and travel, they are allowed to ask for that exemption, and they can turn anyone away if they feel it's not safe. And I wanted to recognize that company, but they said, no, we don't want to be recognized. There was a tour company on Maui, and Kalani Pe'a, our wonderful, wonderful Grammy Award-winning singer, joined the group. He's very concerned about it. He was on the beach. He filmed from a far distance. He did it right. He never mentioned names or nothing. He just said, are these people all lining up for this catamaran? Are they legal? Or are they quarantined? Are they local? Who are they? I want to know. He did mention the company, and then he shared the video with us. And then a call from Kalani's Ohana, his group, was made to the powers that be, and they came forward, and the company came forward from the catamaran, and they said, we're doing 100% kama'aina. We want to get some money back to our workers. And here is our list from our passenger list and the times they came in. These guys had it down perfectly. And I wish I knew their name, because I would say, looking at some of the
Trilogy.
Anyway.
Is it Trilogy?
I don't think so. If anybody remembers, hopefully they'll chime in. But Yeah, doing the right thing is an amazing thing, and these companies should be recognized for that. So that's something I'm going to start with our page, that to make sure that if somebody sees or spots a local company doing great like that, that we identify and recognize them because they deserve more business.
Exactly. Good. Good.
Yeah, I think the exemptions, that in and of itself is a loophole. I really don't understand. Like you say, I agree with you 100% that all of those people coming off that plane should be treated the same, because
Yep.
they all have the same potential of carrying the virus. So when you see what is it, up to like 2,000 people now or whatever a day, and you get all it's broken down like it's supposed to be not as serious if they're a returning resident, or not as serious if they're a intended resident. What the hell is an intended resident? I'm an
Yeah.
intended resident
Yeah.
of Oregon. Yeah, I intend to live there one day. So if I fly to Oregon to go see my kids, am I an intended resident because I plan to come here to retire one day? But that 2,000 is the number that matters to me. So I think the exemption is the same thing. I mean, I understand if the guy is, he's dying and he wants a last wish to go get a excursion or whatever. I mean, that's a tough call, because I don't want to sound heartless, but at the same time, it's not fair to any other person that is bound by that quarantine, and not allowed to go visit family or what have you. I mean, it's kind of sick way of putting it, but that's reality, right? I mean, what is a valid exemption? What, like what? Because I one half of my family live on the North Shore, one half live on the West Side, so I need to go back and forth to see both. That's not valid. Pick one for 14 days.
So
So anyway,
I have the name. I have the name. It
Trilogy.
is C Maui 3.
See, Mauritius.
C Maui 3. And Pam Davis asked, can we recognize companies that are doing things right? Yes, absolutely. We want that. I want people to submit to Hawaii Quarantine Kapu Breakers. Anytime you see a tour company, a local company checking IDs, doing the right thing, servicing kama'aina, being careful, I would say yes, 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 please do that. I also want to recognize a company, Hawaii Aloha Travel, long time, known them long time. And they basically shut down the company, and they gave their employees benefits. All of them are either local or Kanaka Maoli. They've been very careful. They've been working with people on the mainland to get the tests, the right tests and all that kind of stuff. I mean, what kind of tour company does all that? So, those are the kind of local companies that we really want to recognize for doing the right thing. And I think it's about time we do that.
I wanted to ask both you and Angela and Mel. It's disheartening. I should say it's more sad news when you have someone pass away when they were quarantining in a hotel room, okay, and the person passed away. I mean, having been with the ME's office before, usually you'll see signs leading up to, hey, maybe we got to get this person into some medical help. So what that's, and I know I'm sounding real critical about this, but to have a person pass away during quarantine in a hotel room, and they listed as passing away from COVID, the question now comes up is, was the wellness checks actually being made, or was it made and then that's how they discovered him? Because if they made the wellness checks regularly, like they're supposed to, they would have seen signs or symptoms leading up to that point. Because it's
Charlie, that is an incredible discovery. I didn't even think about that.
That's something that I think, it's, I want to believe that they say he died from COVID and it was sudden. Okay, I can accept that, because I've had cases like that where they say that he died within 24 hours about being admitted to the hospital for whatever. But this guy is actually going through quarantine in a hotel room, and they discovered him deceased. So now, do they go back and check the records on how many times they made checks on him? And if they're doing wellness checks, are they logging in? How's his appearance? How's his food? Did he look, distressed? Did he have symptoms of COVID? Because if he was starting to get really sick, I would hope that they'll say, we're going to need to remove you, get the ambulance, and take you to a medical facility already. I would hope they would do that. But for some reason,
See, now in South Korea, they are doing that. We had a member of our group, I think, who traveled. She was here and she had to travel to Korea, and she said they put her in a whole separate line because she was coming from America. They went through all these checks. They did an instant, I guess, the saliva test or whatever. And yeah, and I don't know. I think she was okay, but then they sent her in an escort to her hotel. She didn't go by herself. It is the COVID escort. So she got off the plane.
That's what Minnie Cole said. Yeah, she said
right.
that.
Got in the car, escort to her hotel. They gave her a thermometer. They gave her masks. They gave her goodies. They gave her water, electrolytes, and then they would come and check. So is anyone liable? That's the question. Is anyone liable if someone has not been checked on in their hotel room and they pass away from COVID? Yikes.
I have to believe, and I mean, the state, nothing surprises me anymore, but I have to believe that if that person had symptoms, he would be at a hospital and not a hotel room.
You never know. People are stubborn.
Yeah, but I don't know. And again, we won't know. We won't know until Angela Keene does her investigation. Then we'll know. But again, the Korea model, that would never happen in a Korea model. Because in a Korea model, if you test positive, you go to a facility.
That you're
monitoring. Go to a facility, and if you test, if you have the symptom, you go to a hospital, and it's just the way it works. You don't drive a rental car. You don't catch an Uber, like your friend. No, they will drive you in the government shuttle or car to your quarantine spot, and you best not violate quarantine in South Korea. I mean, and that's kind of how it needs to be here. It really does.
Yeah. We are talking about having, I suggested to Department of Health that we look at doing 3 quarantine hotels, low, medium, and high maka. It's just like, not everybody's gonna want to stay, at this place or that place. So then you have your choice of how you want to spend, go on the cheap and stay in minimal, or go big and get that ocean view and be staying in your room. And I think I mentioned this before. Every hotel needs a risk management officer for health and safety, not just safety issues like fires and accidents and things like that. In COVID time, they have to have a health and safety risk management officer. And that officer has a staff that he designates that goes to those rooms and checks on those people. And then gives the report to the wherever, AG's office, police department, wherever it happens to be. Yeah.
And again, the cost is the responsibility of the traveler. So that's what's in the law. So whatever additional cost, there'd be a quarantine surcharge if you stay in a hotel. And it may be $20 a day, maybe $25 a day. I mean, it's what, $30-40 a day for parking at some of those Honolulu hotels. Hey, you ain't got a car, so you ain't paying a parking fee. So take that parking fee money that you, in some places, $50 a day, and that's now it's your quarantine fee. That's going to pay for the hotel staff to make sure you keep your jackass at home in the room and not go pollute the place with your virus. And, we talked about this 4 months ago. We had Senator Kochi on the show making proposals to the administration about using a hotel or the UH dormitories. I got really excited when that discussion was being had at the Senate COVID meetings, and then obviously it was shut down by the Attorney General saying that's unconstitutional. But now I'm happy to hear that they're talking about it again, because it makes sense. It makes sense, right? What harm is it to a visitor? You're not putting them in a prison. You're not putting them in a dormitory. You're not putting them in a tent. You're just saying that rather than spend your time in your hotel that you was going to stay at for 14 days and 14 nights, now you're going to have a choice, like you said, of these 3 hotels that you will pay for, and you will stay there for 14 days. 2 things are going to happen. Number one, we're going to have a reduction in people that are willing or going to violate the quarantine. That they're not going to come once they realize they're going to be confined in a hotel. Number 2, the people that do decide to come are going to be watched, and they're going to be monitored, and we're going to keep our people safe. So that, to me, that is the answer. And I'm hoping that we can move down that road before they decide to open up the airports. Now, the other positive with that is your staff returns to work at the hotel.
Yes.
You get to get your employees back to work at the quarantine hotel in a safe manner. And it's a win-win.
Yeah, I think so too. Something has to be done. We can't be the status quo. It's a disaster for us. I mean, it really is a true disaster. And we were talking, I see somebody's time to test the system. We had some results that came today from the judge, because you remember, you may have heard the husband that flew in and quarantined with the son and filed the case. So the judge threw that out today. So that's the second one the judge threw out. And that is a good sign for us. That's a really good sign.
That's the guy that came in May.
Yeah.
And his wife joined him in July.
Yeah.
Or June, and then they filed a lawsuit in July.
Yeah, and they had to stay in separate rooms and blah blah blah.
It's a family show, so I'm going to reserve my comments for after.
Yes, I know. Yes, I know. Yes, I know.
Well, we have gone way beyond the 8 o'clock. Angela, thank you again.
Oh gosh, is it already that time?
I know, it went so quick. It went so quick. And what can the people do if they want to help this effort, this quarantine breakers? What we heard a lot of the tips come out through your discussion tonight about don't confront these people, but what should they do?
First of all, don't take screenshots or names and post them. Don't confront them. Don't call them out. Don't get close to them. Why? They're going to run. That's the most important part. Secondly, is we'll get accused of being vigilantes and we'll be shut down. Take those screenshots, be akamai, take the photos in public, try to get whatever information you can, email it to us. I have 1,000 direct messages I can't even get to. There's no way I can accomplish that. Email it to us. Email is easy to track. Talk to neighbors, talk amongst each other. We need people on all islands with all different kinds of skill sets and connections. The connections that I have on Oahu is only because of my years here and working in the news and knowing these people here and there. But there's people on Kauai like you. There's people on Maui. There's people on the Big Island who have those connections, and we need those people to help go to bat for us. And even if they work full-time jobs, reserve a couple hours in the night to send those messages and get a hui together and, start collaborating, complaining. You know what they say, no vote, no grumble, right? It's kind of the same thing with this. Don't be grumbling about it. Jump in and help out in whatever way you can, whether it's educating people, whether it's, helping people who, go out, hey, can we do a volunteer? Let's grab food for this guy. He's in his hotel room. He says he's not going to quarantine if he can't get his food. Okay, somebody go drop it off to him. Those kinds of things. I also would like to hand out cards at the airports to say, if you see a quarantine breaker, call this number or email the details here. We need something like that to be able to collaborate and work together and have a network, a net, a real net that we can, drop that pebble in the water and it creates all these ripples and everybody comes together and we accomplish something and keep the islands safe at the same time.
Do your members need to have a bachelor's degree?
No. Why?
Rhonda Morris, our good friend, just posted. She wanted to help. She wanted to volunteer to help become a contact tracer, and she's wonderful person, very intelligent person, and they told her, sorry, you need a bachelor's degree to help out with the contact tracing. So she's being sarcastic and said that you were. I just thought that was funny.
Hey, Kalamai, you can speak pigeon. You can be on a team. Shoots, we get
Sure,
them.
that girl knows everybody on the island. She's one of our huge quarantine breakers. You know, when you said that your message box is full, and you know, I know Charlie, and I do. You can't get to them all. I know, and sometimes people
Angela.
we're ignoring you.
Angela, she can speak pidgin. She can speak parrot. She can speak. She can speak all. She can speak anything.
Can she
She's like,
speak quarantine breakers?
absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
I just nominated her, so she's on the team. She's on the
I
team.
got it.
Angela, what is the? I know you said it before. What's the email on your prior show you did? What's the email that people can email their tips or
Sure.
if they
quarantinebreakers@gmail.com. And I have 2 volunteers helping me out. So there's quarantinebreakers@gmail.com. There's quarantinebreakers1@gmail.com. And there's quarantinebreakers2@gmail.com. If they copy all of us, one of us will get back to them. So, yeah.
You got that? Quarantine Breakers 1 and Quarantine Breakers 2 at gmail.com.
Yep.
Listen, everybody, it's going to take all of us. I mean, it's going to take all of us. Yeah, we're not going to get all of them, but we'll get most of them. And I know we got some things going here on Kauai that we're looking forward to some results. So it's just a matter of time. We're all working hard on this, and we gotta. We just don't have a choice because there's just not enough people in law enforcement. I mean, you know, the cops got better things to do than be chasing quarantine breakers.
They do.
So you know,
look at all that went on last week. All the stuff that went on last week, they've got their hands full. We need the most help on the Big Island in Maui. We really need people with connections on those islands. Yeah.
We are, like, again, and I'll say it again because I think we on Kauai are unique because our mayor, our police chief, put a huge team down at the airport. They had an external checkpoint. Now it's all inside. So the presence at the airport that is designated for the quarantine effort is here on Kauai. But again, the loopholes that are on there is no fault to the cops or anyone else. It's just the way the laws are written and the way you can get around it. These guys are doing it. That's where we come in.
Good.
Charles.
Well, first of all, again, it was an enjoyable evening tonight. You know, I had a comment that, you know, we didn't have any deaths here, yes, but the death I referred to, I just want to let the viewers know. There was a post today, but Lynn Kawano broke the story, and it was a middle-aged man on Oahu, no info from DOH yet if he had underlying health issues, and but it was reported he did pass away from COVID. He was self-isolating at a hotel.
Wow.
So that's the death that I'm referring to. He was self-isolating at a hotel. Now, we don't know if he passed away at the hospital or if he was found at the hotel, but that begs the question, if it was at the hotel, what we just talked about. I mean, you know, and that's why it's so important that when you quarantine and you're going to do wellness checks, you got to make sure you do it constantly, because that's what the person is doing, right? He's quarantining at a hotel, and we have to ensure that person's safety as well. You know, we cannot just tell him, go to a hotel, isolate, and then no worry about him after. So anyway, I just wanted to bring it because there were some questions that, you know, whether the person died on Kauai or not. No, it was on Oahu, and I'm looking here.
Wow.
Right there. So anyway,
Lynn, she's always breaking stuff. So
yeah,
I mean, she's breaking some stories out. That's pretty profound. Wow, that's scary.
Yeah. So anyway, but thank you so much, Angela. Thank you so much
you guys
for coming on tonight.
You guys.
And to all of our friends over there, thank you for joining us. We had a really good exchange of comments, and I mean, we just look forward to the next one. And if you can help out, if you anybody out there knows anybody on Maui and the Big Island, you know, send Angela an email, shoot them, and let's get some more contacts up there to get some help.
And we also have letter writing resources. So if people want to write letters, just reach out. We have a list in the group in announcements, and we can help you get to the right people. I have all the emails.
Okay.
So, yeah.
No?
It. Their page is awesome. Their Facebook page, if you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. Quarantine, Hawaii Quarantine Kapu Breakers.
Yes.
Amazing. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. Tomorrow night is Town Hall Thursday. That may change if Elton Ushio, our emergency management director, shows up. You know, Angela, we got that hurricane making its way over here.
I know.
So that's just another thorn in our side. So we want to get everyone up on tips and really on what's happening and what we can expect. So he may be on tomorrow night, and maybe not. If he comes on tomorrow night, we'll move our town hall Thursday to Frown Hall Friday. How's that? Anyway, Angela,
Okay,
thanks again.
Stay maka'ala. Be maka'ala. Be vigilant. Yeah.
Gotta be. We will. You guys all stay safe. Take care. God bless. We love you guys. We'll see you all tomorrow night.
Aloha.
Bye-bye.